For fans missing Gibbs' original NCIS team, NCIS, Sydney is a must-watch. This spin-off, which premiered in 2023, mirrors the dynamics of Gibbs' crew with its own Australian Federal Police/NCIS task force. Special Agent Michelle Mackey leads the team, sharing traits with Gibbs, while her partner, J.D. Dempsey, balances her serious nature with charm, reminiscent of the original team's dynamics. The show also features strong supporting characters who reflect the bond seen in the early NCIS, including a friendship between forensic scientists akin to Abby and Ducky. With evolving relationships and team dynamics, NCIS, Sydney captures the essence of the original series while forging its own path. There's one NCIS show you need to watch if you miss Gibbs' original team. One NCIS series emulates Gibbs' original team, and it's a must-watch for those who missed the beginnings of the original NCIS from the early 2000s. The flagship NCIS series launched the franchise in 2003. It was a spin-off of the 1990s legal procedural JAG, which introduced NCIS in a double-feature episode that served as the series' backdoor pilot. The original NCIS Major Case Response Team for the Washington, D.C. office debuted on JAG, and with it, characters such as Gibbs, Ducky, Tony, and Abby entered the shared NCIS universe. When NCIS entered its time slot in September 2003, the series kept most of the original cast and added a new cast member, Sasha Alexander's Caitlin Kate Todd. Kate initially worked for the Secret Service to protect the president, but after the events in the series' first episode, Yankee White, Kate was fired, and Gibbs recruited her to join his team. From then on, the original cast got their NCIS legs for 2 seasons. Another spin-off is currently having the same experience, and it's worth watching for those who appreciate Gibbs' foremost team. NCIS, Sydney's AFP/NCIS Sydney Task Force emulates Gibbs' original MCRT. Mark Harmon portrayed Leroy Jethro Gibbs in NCIS. In many ways, the budding NCIS, Sydney cast emulates Gibbs' original team. The internationally based cast was introduced 20 years after the original. The Aussie-based series premiered in 2023, filling a crucial time slot on CBS when it could not return any of its shows due to the 2023 Writers Guild of America strikes. Special Agent Michelle Mackey debuted as Agent Afloat of the USS Ronald Reagan. Mackey would be promoted to the supervisory agent of the task force formed between the Australian Federal Police and NCIS Sydney at the end of Season 1, Episode 1, Gone Fishin'. The series also introduced Jim J.D. Dempsey, a sergeant with the Australian Federal Police who worked with Mackey in the show's opening episode. Despite protests from both parties, he becomes her partner when the task force is officially formed due to their success in teaming up in Gone Fishin'. J.D. brings Constable Evie Cooper, a liaison with the AFP/NCIS Sydney Task Force, forensic scientist Bluebird Blue Gleason, and forensic pathologist Roy Rosie Penrose, a retired Navy medic. Special Agent Mackey brings Special Agent Deshawn Jackson, her fellow agent afloat, with her into the mix. Mackey and J.D. are modeled after the original team leader, but they split the role. Olivia Swan and Todd Lazenz portray the leading agents. Mackey and J.D. contribute all the qualities that comprise the original team leader, Leroy Jethro Gibbs. Mackey is a former captain in the United States Marine Corps. She is the official team leader, but Todd Lazen's portrayal of J.D. balances her character personally and professionally. Mackey has a tragic past in NCIS, Sydney, which she keeps a secret in Season 1. The way Mackey's past keeps her closed off from her team in Season 1 is reminiscent of Gibbs, who had demons from his time in the service and had experienced adjacent trauma. In contrast to Mackey's hard exterior, J.D. is kind and charming. He brings a sense of poise and ease to the team that no other character accomplishes. As the local between the team leads, J.D. exudes an easy confidence that comes with his mastery of his environment. Mackey is often confused in the unfamiliar landscape of Sydney, Australia, hailing from Iowa. She doesn't have the same mastery that Gibbs applied to everything he did in NCIS, but J.D. brings that to their shared dynamic. J.D. and Mackey also share Gibbs' arrogance, which lends itself to effective command in high-stakes situations. Bluebird and the Doc share Abby Ciuto and Ducky's supportive relationship. Maverney Hazel and William McInnes portray the scientists. Like the bond between Abby Ciuto and Ducky in the original NCIS series, the AFP/NCIS Sydney scientists share a special connection. The relationship between Blue and Roy adds depth and emotion to the show's narrative. The forensic scientist and the forensic pathologist are often back at NCIS Sydney headquarters, stuck working on forensics while the team is out in the field investigating. The proximity allows for a special bond between Roy and Blue, both emotionally attuned introverts, and the same was true for Abby and Dr. Mallard in the original series. At the end of NCIS, Sydney Season 1, Episode 5, Doggy Asino Day Afternoon, the bond between Blue and Roy is solidified. The episode revealed that the doctor is struggling because he moved his wife to a care facility due to her struggle with dementia. Blue was deeply moved and lent herself to the cause. She insisted on driving Roy to see his wife, Alice, at the end of Episode 5 and staying in the car while he went inside. It signified that the two have a lasting friendship that mimics Ducky and Abby in the original NCIS series. Evie and Deshawn have a will-they-won't-they romance like Kate and Tony. Tully Narkle and Sean Sauger portray the supporting law enforcement. Many NCIS series have a will-they-won't-they romance to keep viewers tuning in week after week and season after season. Still, something about the spark between Evie and Deshawn is specifically evocative of Tony and Kate's NCIS relationship. Evie and Deshawn have a playful but adversarial relationship as Season 1 kicked off, and while it was understood as banter, Evie hardly ever let up on the ruse. The same was true of Kate Todd, who had to suffer Tony's sexist remarks but often served the blows more than she received them, sometimes belittling Tony's character in the name of the jest. Evie exercised a similar pattern of interacting with Deshawn. Narkle's character dogmatically chose sarcasm over kindness when interacting with her partner in Season 1, and it evolved the same status of the relationship between the partners. Since Evie never let up on the criticisms, the relationship between Evie and Deshawn felt more like a sibling rivalry than a love story. It was the essence of Kate and Tony's romance as well. While Tony and Kate's replacement, Ziva, also had a will-they/won't-they, there was more sexual tension in Tony and Ziva's NCIS romance, and its build-up relied less on jokes. How the AFP/NCIS Sydney Task Force will evolve in NCIS, Sydney Season 2. There is much development potential for Mackie, JD, Evie, Deshawn, Blue, and Roy in Season 2. The AFP/NCIS Sydney Task Force will continue to evolve in Season 2. The team faced a recurring antagonist in Season 1, Anonymous, who was out to compromise the military presence in Sydney but whose motivation and objectives remain unclear. The team will likely revisit the villain in NCIS, Sydney Season 2. As for the team, they will continue to strengthen their bonds, similarly to how they progressed in Season 1. The team began to gel in the first season, adding its first new member and forming a noticeable sense of trust among the group. The task force's most stark similarity to Gibbs' original squad is that they are just getting started working together, and it's an energy that can't be replicated. The AFP/NCIS Sydney Task Force often emulates Gibbs' original team. The task force's most stark similarity to Gibbs' original squad is that they are just getting started working together, and it's an energy that can't be replicated. The agents are still getting used to one another and figuring out whether they are teammates or adversaries. Turf wars and pissing contests exist as the agents find their rhythm for working together. While the flagship NCIS has had some great team iterations since Kate Todd was killed, no team could emulate the freshman nature of the show's inaugural group.